We got Gators breakdown here. We know we're business.
Gators breakdown. Because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SET, coming at you from the swamp, where USF comes into the swamp, defeats Florida 18-16. A stunner. I know even if you're not the biggest Billy Napier fan, and you could kind of joke, watch out for USF. They really can. Most people really didn't believe it. They just don't really, like Billy Napier or anything like that, even more so after this one. But even joking about it, I don't think many people really saw this one coming. As much as you don't like him, you probably were still picking Florida. You might have joked about it and maybe taking it a little bit more seriously after USF beat Boise last week. But all in all, from what I could tell, still, most of Gator Nation, even if you don't like Billy Napier, was still seriously picking Florida. If you were going to Vegas, if you were betting, you were putting money on Florida to walk away with a victory today. Maybe not cover the spread or anything like that. I know people were saying, all right, well, we weren't impressed what we saw, even though it was a 55-0 win over Long Island last week. USF beat Boise. Okay, may not cover the spread, but not many people saw this stunner coming and an inexcusable loss for Billy Napier right here. And the team and the Gators. This is every bit of it. This was every bit of it. Players, plays, coaches, he put it on everybody. It is ultimately up to Billy Napier to have this team ready. I think a lot of us like the talent on this team. I will still stand by that. And this one mostly falls on the coach, the head coach, the offensive coordinator, the game planner. Everything that you want to put on Billy Napier's shoulders, I think you rightfully can. Inexcusable loss. Inexcusable to be 1-1. Florida shouldn't be 1-1. And the excitement we had for this team, the expectations a lot of us had for this team, yeah, it's 1-1, and you got 10 more games to play. But why should we feel good? Why should we feel confident? I know a lot of people are going to go back and point to, well, you certainly didn't think this when we got our butts beat by Texas last year and we turned around and beat LSU, we turned around and beat Ole Miss and had that winning streak. Sure, fine. Throw that in my face. Is that a possibility again? Sure. Did Notre Dame lose to Northern Illinois last year after beating Texas A&M and go on to make the national championship game? Sure they did. Do you honestly really see that coming down the pipeline for Florida? Do you? I don't. We should not be in a situation 1-1, and it's a 55-0 win over LIU. Okay, yippee. And then an 18-16 loss to USF for what you have coming up. What you have coming up on the schedule. LSU next week, and then I know, yes, they might be struggling or not struggling with whoever they're playing or whatever. Clemson struggled with Troy for a little while. LSU and Clemson played last week. Okay, yeah, sure. But for the expectations we have for this team, I don't care what happens outside of I don't care what happens outside of this stadium today. Florida, Billy Napier, they let us down. They certainly let us down. I don't see a rebound from this. Can you go on and have an okay season? Sure. The 10-2, I myself put on this team, torn between that and 9-3. Well, either way, that doesn't look attainable right now. I don't think you're going to Baton Rouge next week and winning that. Not from what we've seen from this team. I don't think you're going to Miami in a couple weeks. Yeah, we're 2 weeks into the season, and games I had picked as wins already. After what we saw today in this stadium, I ain't picking those games. So go ahead. You want my prediction for LSU next week? All right, LSU's going to win that game. I don't know what my score prediction to be right now. But what we saw out there in that stadium today, it's not there's no excuses for it. I mean, they said it after the game too. Billy Napier, DJ Lagway, everybody, no excuses. They know it. They know it doesn't do anything. It's lip service right now. All this lip service that we had all summer long of this, and we've heard it almost in different ways leading up to each season, but we had some confidence. All right, maybe the lip service, maybe the talk of where this team is at, maybe it's not so much lip service this year. There was a lot to like about this team coming out of the end of season last year, and it's already come crumbling down. Yes, there's 10 more games to play, and I'm not trying to throw away the season, and I hope they go out there and prove us wrong. But we can't sit here at 9:30 at night with a 4 o'clock game that Florida just lost to USF and feel confident about everything that we had for goals for this team are now going to be attainable. I don't see it. I don't know if you still see it, kudos to you. Can something happen in this crazy world of college football? Sure it can. I don't know how you could predict that to happen. I just honestly don't. I just honestly don't. So it's disappointing. Many of us were so excited for this season. And here we are, year 4 of Billy Napier, and it's 2 straight years of 1-1 starts. And here we are circling this year, because we know how hard the schedule is. But we circle this year and say, all right, we got LIU and USF. We finally get to ease into the season a little bit. We know it's going to get tougher after that. But we get to ease into the season a little bit. We're going to be 2-0 going to Baton Rouge. No, you're 1-1, picking up the pieces. I don't even know where this team is at right now. I don't know where this offense is. 1 touchdown scored on a drive that was set up by a Vernell Brown punt return. Where's this offense at? Where's DJ Lagway at? I mean, I'm not hiding anything. I don't know what the reasons are now. There may be excuses and there may be reasons that we're not privy to. We know there's a lot going on to DJ Lagway and the injuries. And look, admittedly, myself, I would fully admit, I did not think all the time off would affect DJ Lagway. But I don't know if that's what it is. I really don't. And I think we can question number 2. After what we saw today, after what we saw some last week, and I think it was fine after week 1 to say, okay, it's probably some rust. There's some injuries. Let's see where he's at. Let's see where he progresses. We're still in that same spot. In some ways, missing even more easy throws. We have every right to question maybe the development from the coaching staff towards DJ Lagway. And I know it's limited, so maybe that's not fair. Maybe he's not on the field a whole lot in spring and fall camp. But what do we lend itself to? Has he reached a ceiling? Is the best of DJ Lagway last year? Is that the best we're going to get? Now, my bad, he's not even reaching that level right now. So I'll take what we saw last year over what we saw in 2 games of year 2 for DJ Lagway so far. I'm not seeing it. I mean, my confidence for number 2 right now is shot. I don't know where it is. I have no idea if he can go to Baton Rouge next week and go play a good game. I'm not predicting it. I won't predict it. Where's the headspace for this team right now? And specifically for the quarterback spot. But not on him. I mean, we're at this point now, too, where, well, not at the point. A lot of you have been at the point, but we're at the point already now, 2 games in, where we're already questioning head coaching and play calling decision and clock management and timeout usage. And here we are again. Game 2 of a game you should have won. I don't care what everybody thinks about you. They're going to go to Miami next week and get waxed, by the way. And if I'm wrong about that, maybe I am wrong. I've been wrong about a lot of college football this year, so maybe they don't go to Miami next week and get waxed. But I thought Florida would do some waxing today as well, and that didn't happen. So, all right, so maybe I'm wrong. But if I'm predicting it, I think Miami handles USF pretty easy next week. But there's two games in, we got so many questions. And kind of stabbed in the gut again about where this team is for Billy Napier. In year 4, by the way. We're losing to USF right here in the swamp, by the way. What about the roller coaster we've had in this stadium dating back to last year with the big losses at home to Miami to open up the season, and then Texas A&M, and then somehow gather it all together and have big wins over LSU and Ole Miss. But you just let an American AAC team walk in here. I think that's the conference they're in. and get a win and get a victory. USF walks in here to the swamp and walks away with a victory. We know we got FSU at the end of the year, but you could have a 2-year window. Now, you did get the win over UCF here in the swamp last year, so all right, maybe not all done, but Miami walks in here, puts up 41 points and beats the brains in last year. South Florida comes in, gets a win. You got FSU at the end of the year. I mean, we really go, whatever FSU is by the end of the year, they're looking better than Florida right now. They walk in here. I mean, are you in a 2-year window losing games at home to Miami in blowout fashion, South Florida, and maybe FSU at the end of this year? I mean, that's staring us in the face right now. Who knows where this team would be at then? But that's the reality of the situation. Let me get to some quick comments here. Got whatever I did deserve. You guys sending money right here. Thank you so much. Thanks for the super chats. Adrian Raps says there was not one bright spot all game. Absolutely horrible. We'll be lucky to win 4 games. You could be right. And who am I to say you're wrong? Who am I to say you're wrong? Yeah, this team could just go win 4 games in a preseason where there was finally so much buy-in. Now, that Billy, there's people who would just not buy into Billy Napier. And look, they look right now. They absolutely look right. They look absolutely validated right now. Maybe so much kudos to them. I bought in this year. You guys know. To me, I was thinking about this a little bit before I come on here. And I thought about buy-in. And a lot of us have had to hop back on board. Many of you know me, you've been following me. This one right here, as far as the team you lost to being a stunner, this one reminds me of Arkansas year 2. Reminds me of Arkansas year 2. They walk in here somehow, some way, walk out with Sam Pittman's on the hot seat. They switch offensive coordinators. They come in here and in kind of the same fashion, get a win, that just, you did not think even as bad as Florida was that year, they weren't Arkansas bad. Arkansas, after that game, still fell on their face. But that's where I'm looking at the other team. But it's even worse this time because we had better expectations for this Florida team. And then the team you lose to, that's where so much of the stunner comes in. Like, this is a different theme. This is a different type. This is a different feel of episode if we lose to LSU next week. And that's the first loss. Okay, you go to Baton Rouge. Hopefully, fight hard, close loss. Okay. But here we are, a week earlier from that game. We're asking ourselves if we can even go compete next week. I really don't know. I'm lost on that. And you're right, Adrian. There was Vernell Brown's punt return. Okay, maybe. Maybe right there. I think you can point out and some things that he did tonight. But at the same time, one of Lagway's few good throws goes right through his hands. And true freshman, okay, and look, that's not zooming in on Vernell Brown and putting the loss on him or anything like that. Absolutely not. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But in a game where there weren't many plays to be made, unfortunately, Florida needed to capitalize on it. And one of the few deep passes Lagway's actually throwing for whatever reason. And I know some coverages are coming into it, and they're trying to stop Lagway from going deep so much. But in one that you had, Vernell Brown's got to come up with that catch. But there was plays all throughout this game. We go early in the game. You had 2 touchdowns called back because of. Well, here we are, year 4, and we got 11 penalties in the game. Now, how do upsets happen? Something like that. You weren't turning the ball over like crazy. You had the Lagway interception down the field. But you had 2 touchdowns called back because of penalties. 11 penalties total. A week after, you had none. So once competition ramped up, this team lost its composure. This team lost its ability to play a smart game of football where it's not going right, but you don't have those, you probably come out still winning. So you weren't playing good. You weren't doing yourself any favors. And that's how you end up with an 18-16 loss to South Florida. Not many bright spots at all. Adrian, you're right. Nicholas Roca goes to something that a lot of us say, and I think try to buy in, try to give a whole lot of credence, and or try to open the door back. I go back to the Arkansas game. I had lost a lot of hope for Billy Napier that day. Well, okay, I don't know. I get back on board. The fan in me comes back on board a bit. If you're looking for something different in a podcast host and and not tying the fan into so much of it, okay, I may not be your guy. But I try to call it like I see it. I try to, be fan and podcast host at the same time. I got bought back in, and some of it's being a fan. Some of it's being a fan. But I legit thought there were reasons to be excited for this team. I really did. After what they showed it had to end last year. But some people go back to this, and Nicholas Roca brings it up. If you're a good coach, you're in right away. Or by year 2, you showed tangible progress to where you want to be in the future. Billy was done after losing to a terrible Arkansas team. My bad. I didn't even see that comment, that part of the comment, until I brought that game up as well. That was the first time I felt like, because year ones, you get a lot of passes, and I give a lot of coaches passes in year one. In year two, that game, that's the first time the doubt really started creeping in for me. But admittedly, I came back on board. But you're right. I mean, especially in the SEC, there's so much history that says if you're not winning by year one, year two, but year two, that it's likely not going to happen at the level you want it to. Very rare that it does it, especially in today's age. You got to go back to like 90 and Phil Fulmer and Tommy Tuberville and those guys who showed something past, really early years that ended up doing something down the road. In today's SEC, it doesn't usually happen that way. Hey, and I heard this a good bit too. Nicholas ends it with, I just hate we wasted close to half a decade of Florida football. Man, it's hard not to feel that way. Hard not to feel that way right now. Because how do you dig yourself out of this? And if this team digs themselves out of this somehow, some way, and lives up to a lot of the expectations we had, maybe we look dumb tonight. Maybe we do. I hope it's just somehow a bad day, a bad night. I hope, but we cannot just chalk it up to that and say, all right, it's that. Let's see what next week brings. No. Even with a 55-0 win over LIU last week, when we were sitting here, quote unquote, nitpicking about things that we saw that we knew we needed to get better at, some of the fan base was, oh, you're just nitpicking. Oh, it was a vanilla game plan. Oh, it was this, it was that. No, it wasn't. And when we brought up the offensive line struggles last week, and when we brought up Lagley not looking like himself, it was things that, things need to get improved. Now, don't get me wrong. I didn't think that was going to come and rear its head against USF so much. I didn't. But they certainly have. Baron and says, do you think Strickland's extension gives him confidence/security to fire Napier now? Yeah, I haven't spoke much on that. I think today is a good time to bring that up. If Scott Strickland was worried he was tied to Billy Napier, he no longer needs to be worried about that. He's earned some grace with the basketball national championship, of course. So I don't know how Scott Strickland views that. I would hope if there was some truth to he's not going to get rid of Billy Napier because it looks bad on him, it might in his job. Well, we already know that's not going to be the case anymore. So with this, him get the extension. Would he feel safe if this continues on this year? I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how you get out of this after losing to USF or what the schedule Florida has coming up. I don't know how you get out of this. But maybe that opens up the door a bit. And believe me, right now in today's college football, programs do not want to be firing coaches. They really don't. But at some point, you're going to have to Scott Strickland's going to have to look in the mirror and ask himself the hard question of what he wants and higher ups and where the money's coming from. That's the scary thing right now. You can't stand by. You really can't. If you feel like it's time to move on, okay. Money be damned. But because of rev share and because of NIL and all that, all the reasons we heard last year, programs really do not. I'm not saying you don't do it if you think it's time, but programs really don't want to be firing coaches because then you got to pay buyouts, then you got to pay staff buyouts, and those are the same people you're going to ask NIL money for. So then, okay, a lot of players may hit the transfer portal. So now you're going to have to go buy a whole nother new roster. How much does a coaching change cost? Now they're happy in filling this building up, and no matter how bad it's looked in the last few years, this building still fills up. Their pockets still get lined. Maybe they don't see the wherewithal, the need to, because the pockets are still getting filled up here. Season tickets were sold out with this exciting season we thought we were getting. But at some point, dirt's got to hit the road. And Billy Napier's going to have to prove somehow, some way, he can dig himself out of this and be the guy. I mean, he talked about it in postgame. We're talking a big picture question. Is he the guy to lead this program? It does not look like it. It does not look like it. You don't have this team 1-1 after week 2 if you're the guy to lead this program. I like Billy Napier. I'm a big Billy Napier fan. I'm also a Florida Gator fan. And what he's doing is not getting it done. This was a putrid performance out there today. Need to get into a little bit of the game. But I know it's a lot of big picture talk. You can't fire it. You're not firing him right now. You're not. Not after 1-1. Especially after what Notre Dame did last year. A lot of people go throw that in the face. I'll admit we got to let this play out. I don't think it's going to play out good. I don't see how this, in the scenario I just laid out, with who makes the decisions, they're going to let this play out as long as they possibly can. And admittedly, I would too. You're not firing a coach right now. You're not. For one reason, just in case. But for two, you're not firing a coach 2 games after a season, or 2 games into a season. You're just not. Nor should you. That's not sending a great message at all to the players out there. So, but if you're done, I am absolutely not blaming you. I know a lot of people, and look, comments firing, I can't disagree with it. I wouldn't disagree with it. I don't see us getting out of this. I know, guys, there's a lot of comments. I am here by myself. I don't want to spend all night reading comments. That would not make for great. Not make for great a great podcast. But certainly, I can't be going through. There's a ton of them. I don't even know how many comments there are right now. So thanks for about 3,000 of you between YouTube and Twitter for hopping in right now. But certainly not a great night as Florida falls 18-16 to USF. So lots of ways to go with this right now. We need to get into some of the story of the game, why it turned out the way it did. But I know there's so many avenues to go with that. I'd love to get some comments in. It's very hard to keep up with them. I will try at some point, but let me talk some of the game a little bit. But hey, everybody hit that like button. I know you don't like the result. I don't like the result. Like what we're doing here, right here on Gators Breakdown, live from the swamp after the game. So hit that like button. That helps me out, helps us out. If you don't like me, okay, that's fine. And subscribe right here. This is probably going to be an eventful week. We'll have a Gators Breakdown Plus chat. So join Gators Breakdown Plus if you want to. But we'll have a chat tomorrow evening. That'll be the next episode of Gators Breakdown. So we'll get a lot of Gator Nation's thoughts. So subscribe if you want the alert for that one right here on YouTube. But smashing that like button, that really helps us out. Like I said, if you want to join Gators Breakdown Plus, link is in the description, gatorsbreakdownplus.com as well. So let's get into it a little bit right here with my friends at Gator Drywall, of course. You know what's been driving me crazy lately? Well, these Gators for one, of course. That's been tonight, driving me crazy. But what's been also driving me crazy, I got those outdated popcorn ceilings in my house, and those things are going to look even uglier when I get home tonight. I'm just going to walk into the house, and oh man, what am I doing here? Great house, by the way. I love my house. We spent this whole year remodeling our house. I got one more thing to do. That's fix those popcorn ceilings. And hey, look, I'm going with Gator Drywall of Duval. They've been serving Jacksonville, serving surrounding areas for over 25 years. And I finally scheduled them to come transform my ceiling soon. Brandon and his family, they run this amazing business. I've become friends with Brandon. He texted me long after this game, another frustrated Gator fan. So that's another thing. We're all Gator fans here. Brandon's a Gator fan. You can tell by the name, Gator Drywall of Duval. But got it all there, guys. New construction to repairs, patches, hanging drywall, finishing, sanding, spray texture, popcorn removal. Of course, that's what I'm excited about, getting my house done in that way. But metal framing, acoustic ceilings as well. But what really sold me on Gator Drywall of Duval, they handle all those small details that would normally stress me out. Not only are they updating my ceilings, but Brandon come and walk through the house. They're going to get rid of those annoying cracks in the drywall, patching some holes for me. So I'll definitely be sharing the experience there with Gator Drywall of Duval. But guys, if you're in the Jacksonville area, give Brandon a call. 904-793-2088. Visit Gator Drywall of Duval.com. All right. Can we just, when you want to get into stats or something? That's the thing. It's a loss. So diving into the stats, it gets aggravated, but it kind of helps us, tell the story of the game a little bit. Hopefully you guys can see that. I've got some stats right here on a piece of paper. It helps me see them, so I don't have to look in so much. But Florida rushing the ball. Jaden Ball, 18 carries. We do our over-unders before the season starts. Me and Will, we set that at 15 for the season per game. Jaden Ball had 18 carries and he had 96 yards, 5.2 average. I believe he had 51 yards after the first drive of the game. Florida has to settle for a field goal, but yeah, Jaden Ball had 51 yards after the first drive of the game. He had 96. For the whole game. About 45 yards the rest of the game after rushing for 51 on the opening drive. Credit to USF. They control Florida's running game. Florida did a lot of east-west running. I thought. I was talking to Neil Blackman after the game. That was something that's something he pointed out, and certainly it's something I agreed. Certainly I agreed with. Like a lot more north-south running, especially with these backs. But I know this, zone scheme and all that. And hard to question what we've seen from this run game throughout the time. But getting off to that big of a start with Jaden Ball, and then it just kind of going by the wayside later on, didn't work out. Jacoby Jackson, 6 for 24, 3.7 yards. Lagway, 6 carries, 11 yards. I mean, he's not even a threat with his legs, really. I mean, I know Penalties called back his best night, his best run of the night, but whether it be the injuries piling up or, the size, maybe he's a little bit slower than he was. He was never going to be an outstanding. Well, I don't know. No, I actually think he could. I mean, he was never going to be Cam Newton or anything like that, don't get me wrong. But I'll admit, the first couple of weeks when he's maneuvering in the pocket, when he's trying to take down the run, I don't see a threat there. I don't think a big play's coming or anything like that. Through the air, DJ Lagway, 22 of 33, 222 yards, a long of 32. And that's something that's certainly missing so far through 2 games are the explosive passes from DJ Lagway in this offense. Of course, teams have had an all offseason to scout DJ Lagway, and they are certainly stopping, trying to prevent the big play, the explosive plays down the field. Great, okay. That should still open up more in the intermediate routes. But there's times now where Lagway's just missing guys, over the middle. A lot of throws are high now. I thought some of those intermediate crossers, with the way the safeties were going to play that far back, and they were playing the deep ball. I mean, I got to watch replay and all that to see how USF's playing a whole lot of that. But I thought, these crossers that we've made so famous, especially last year with DK and Badger, thought maybe, we saw it tonight. We saw some of that. I thought might have a bigger role in how teams are now playing DJ Lagway. So maybe that's the way out of it and the struggles. Once again, 23 of 33, so 10 incompletions. That one interception there just throws it. Nobody's really open on that play. There's 3 receivers down the field. Nobody's open. He kind of just forces the ball to Sturdivant, throws it where it's out of reach of Sturdivant, but just in reach of a USF defender, and the interception there. So frustrating to turn the ball over in that situation when an offense that wasn't really working for you all night long. So Trey Wilson, 9 targets. He had 7 catches for 60 yards. The only touchdown of the game there for the Gators. Vernell Brown III, 5 for 56. Hayden Hanson targeted 5 times. That one early in the game, it was the tight end fade down to the end zone. I did not like it. And maybe that's where Lagway had to go, but I don't like having a play call where we're relying on a tight end who's in coverage. Yeah, he might have size on the guy, but we're asking Hayden Hanson. Maybe he's showing it in practice or whatever, but we're asking Hayden Hanson to show something. I don't know if he has or not. The offense was on hard mode tonight. Nothing looks easy. And whether that's the coaching and the game planning, I think that has a lot to do with it. And Lagway being off. Now, you tie those two elements together, and I think that's why we're seeing an offense. That's one touchdown. One touchdown tonight. Byron Brown, by the way, 23 of 36 for 263. Outplayed DJ Lagway. He had the explosive pass tonight for 66 yards. Sharif Denson, Dijon Johnson pretty much take each other out of the play. And a 66-yard touchdown there for USF to hit the big explosive play. That was frustrating. But if you had told me, and I tweeted this out, if you had told me before the game that USF ran the ball for 128 net yards, sign me up. Where do I sign? Florida's going to win this game. Florida's going to win this game if USF throws for 128 or runs for 128. Well, no. Brown goes on to throw for 263 yards, while DJ Lagway throws for 222. Florida outran USF by 5 yards, 133 to 128 net yardage. Trey Wilson, Vernell Brown III, Hayden Hanson, Jacoby Jackson, J. Michael Sturdivant, Aiden Mizell, Tank Hawkins, T.J. Abrams, all with a catch tonight. But you kind of tell from the beginning that may not be the day. Early drives ended up in field goals. I mean, the scoring drives went, let's see, 3-0 Gators for Trace Mack field goal. Grammatica kicks a field goal. South Florida 3-3. 6-3 Florida. 9-3 Florida. 9-6 Florida. So a field goal fest early, of course. Then you get the 66-yard pass by USF to take the lead 13-9. Then the safety. Special teams show up again, by the way. Snap goes over the head of the punter, Tommy Doman. So it gives USF a 15-9 lead, by the way. That 2 points came in handy, didn't it, later on? Florida scores a touchdown, makes it 16-15. So it should have been 16-13. USF drives and the field goal only maybe takes you to overtime. Shouldn't have been in the situation to begin with. But that's how the small things add up. All the key penalties Florida had. The ones in the red zone. After a good play happens. Just putrid how this team shows up. I get it. Hey, hooray, Trace Mack showed back up today. So I guess that's why it was even a game. Trace Mack had the game he had last week. This may not even be a game. Think about that for a second. And then, like I said, your one touchdown drive, 5 plays, 20 yards because it was set up by Vernell Brown III punt return, and then a penalty after that, personal foul, I believe. So you had to have a ton of help just to score your only touchdown in a game. How do you defend this? Maybe I'll go back to the comments just for a second, and I'll go to the new comments. But if there's anybody out here who says you can defend this, let me know. I don't know how you can defend it. But stats, I think tell a story there. Brown outplaying Lagway. We really expect that? We really expect that? 2 games into Lagway's second year? I don't care what happened in the offseason. I don't care what time he missed. He's supposed to be our guy. Supposed to be our quarterback. And no matter how you felt, another reason I was kind of buying into this year I still had tons of questions about Billy Napier, the play caller, and the game plan, and the game manager. I thought the talent on this roster was going to be enough to overcome a whole lot of that. And you lose a game to USF. That's why I don't feel good about it. Talent should still win you a game like this. It really should. JB, nobody's defending it. That says a lot. I don't know how you can. I don't know how you can. Going back to it earlier, I don't know what good you take out of it. Not a whole lot of good. And the biggest worrisome for me thing, another worrisome thing for me, we go back to the offense. Lagwave already said that about that. I thought the run game would kind of take over and at least get to a point to, if Lagwave was going to struggle like this, maybe because of all the offseason issues we've talked about, it'd be strong enough to get by games like this, to bring along DJ Lagwave till he's the player that we think he can be. I think that let us down a little bit. This offensive line, like I said, but beyond that first drive, especially in rushing the ball, left a lot to be desired. I know USF flies around on defense a good bit. Credit to them. They had 7 tackles for loss. Florida only had 3, by the way. Florida's had 1 sack in 2 games. That sack came late with Tyreek Sapp. Did the defense play good enough to win in holding South Florida to 18 points? Yeah, but I'm questioning on that side of the ball. Why? I get to a point. I thought it'd be mixed up a bit more. Florida played a little softer than I thought they would, and I know some of that is you don't want to play in man and give big running lanes to Brown to kill you on the ground like in that fashion. They run streaks down the field. You got defenders, 40 yards away from the line of scrimmage. He takes off and run, and there's a big play. So I expected Florida to play some zone, play some soft coverage to maybe help prevent that. But man, especially that last drive, why so much cushion? You gave up 263 passing yards. I expected better than that. Florida 4-12 on third down. USF was 6 of 16. USF 6 yards per play. Florida 5.5 yards per play. This is not what I thought we were getting. 4 or 5 coming back on the offensive line. I mean, pass blocking I thought was even better than it was last week. I got to rewatch the game. Now this is just kind of, of course, coming back from, watching the game live. USF 65 total plays, Florida 64 total plays. This is not what I thought we were getting. And I do think the stats tell a story in this. Maybe Brown's a lot better than I give him credit for. I think he'll tear it up in their level of competition. We'll see what he does against Miami next week. Ruben Bain and that group. Does that tell us a story? I mean, we'll have our own game in Baton Rouge, of course, and maybe we get a better story of that next week. The game management issues once more. I don't know how many times we got to keep going back to that. But we're in year 4 and we're still in abysmal game management. Holding on to the timeouts for so. I know Billy Napier said, they were going to eventually go kick a field goal anyway. Okay, great. Let them kick one with a little bit more time on the clock. Maybe some kind of miracle happens. First of all, you had to waste a timeout coming out of a break. First play of the drive. You waste your first timeout of the second half. So then you only have 2 very late game. You couldn't put the game away. So you give USF another chance. That was another thing. You just kept giving USF chance after chance after chance after chance. Then you have to waste a timeout. You only have 2 late in the game. So a lot of the issues that people maybe have joked about keep writing home about. All right, special teams punt goes over the head. All right, that hurts Florida. Game management, wasting a timeout for whatever reason. So now you don't even have 3 going into the final drive of the game when you absolutely could have used them. Do you let South Florida score, maybe even faster, try to get the ball back? Settling for field goals. Just, I'd say questions I didn't think we'd be asking, but maybe I should. Like I said, I thought the talent could overcome some of this. Apparently, I was very wrong about that. All right. Let me try and get some comments here. Jetta Pisani had to find a new way to fail on special teams. Yeah, we hadn't seen that one, have we? I thought late, too. The drive late, Lagway comes out and throws the ball to Vernell. That was a RPO, throws the ball, it was incomplete. And then you get the 3rd and 3, and you run the ball. Florida's last offensive possession. You trusted enough on the first play to at least call an RPO where you give Lagway the chance to throw. I would have liked to run the ball in that situation. But okay, thought they had Vernell out there one-on-one. He catches that. Great. Great on first down. Then I believe it's 3rd and 3 on that drive, and you run the ball and get stuffed. Or 3rd and manageable. I'm pretty sure they thought, all right, we're going to run. Maybe we can get it to 4th and short and go for it again. That part of the game strategy for Billy Napier is not really starting to work out all too well. It's predictable they may run on 3rd down to set up a 4th and short, but they never even get to the 4th and short because they can't block. Thank you.
No,
Are you good? You're good. You're good.
just looking for Zach. You think I'm going to get a Pepsi before I leave?
All right. Keith from On 3 just walked in. So that play, the drive I'm going back to. You take over on your own 40, by the way. So you're pretty good field position. It was 16-15. Florida with 2:52 remaining. You take over in your own 40. You have to call a timeout before the snap's even taken. Then that's that first down pass opposite field to Vernell Brown. It's not even close. RPO there for some reason. I'd have liked them, I wouldn't have had that option. I'd have ran the ball. Just run it. 2nd and 10. There's 2:49 left on the clock. Ball runs for 2 yards. So that was a 3rd and 8. My bad, not 3rd and 3. It was 3rd and 8 on the Florida 42. There's 2:44 left in the game. Lagway throws that beautiful ball, down to Brown. It's about 30 yards down the field, right through his hands. You forced to punt. So that's where USF takes over. I had the drives out of whack there. Mine was the drive before that. Florida's next to last offensive drive. It's 3rd and 3 after Jacoby Jackson runs. You're at the 45-yard line. That run's call is absolutely blown up for a loss of 1. It's forced to punt. You gain something, you probably go for it. Somehow the right side of the line, a USF lineman completely unblocked. Looks like Trey Wilson was trying to block a lineman. Looked odd. The Gators had to punt there. But that didn't kill you. But you do get the ball back. And as I said, that was you take over on your own 40. That drive ends in Brown not catching it. So you had your chances late. Couldn't put the game away. And then the last drive of the game. That's the only one I'll go play by play of. South Florida, 2:26 left on their own 11-yard line. Remember, guys, they start on the own 11. Dijon Johnson got called for pass interference. So there's another penalty. So it's first down there to the 24. Then no gain. Then Brendan Bett called for unsportsmanlike for spitting on a player, gets ejected. So another penalty for Florida. So now the ball's at the USF 39. Brown finds Isaac somehow out of the backfield. He scampers down the sideline, broken tackles, 29 yards down. And Florida had done an okay job at, I thought, tackling. I thought this was going to be a little more difficult of a game, of course. But then in the clutch situation, letting the big play down the sideline somehow happen. About 3 missed tackles on that play. And then another pass completed for USF somehow. That was, 12 yards to the 20-yard line. That was just the cushion pressure there. And then they just sawed away. Brown keeps running to the goal line. No timeouts are being used. Terrible game management. They kick a field goal, win 18-16. Okay. Lagway missed 10 passes, with 3 of them being drops and 1 TD called back. Is he supposed to have a 100% completion rating to beat USF? This offense is just terrible. There's a lot of truth in that. It's just the offense like it's played on hard mode. There's not a lot, and that's probably that's the biggest issue with this offense for me. Is I think it can be successful, but it looks like it's played on hard mode, and the margin for error is so thin. It's like one negative play ruins a drive. They can't get out of it. And if he's a little more crisp, Florida finds their way out of this, I think. And I'm not asking him to have 100%, but he doesn't look the same. And maybe that's not comfortable in this offense. But we're not even getting the good version of DJ Lagway yet last year. And we expected a jump. What is the reason? What is the reason for the jump not happening yet? Injuries? Okay. How long are we going to use that? Can it be the case? It absolutely can. I'm just asking the question. I don't know why. Is he still hurt? Is that part of it? Now, from talking to people in practice, he's still throwing the ball deep. The ball's still going down the field. We're not seeing a whole lot here. The way defenses are playing are a big part of that. But we're certainly not seeing what we thought we would see. Kempo Karate ball averages 10 yards a rush and Billy benches him. I mean, they do have their plan of first drive goes to ball, second drive goes to Jacoby Jackson. That is their plan. They're going to stick to that. But so far, I thought it would be pretty close between those two. It's not. Ball is much better. Has been playing much better. Is that something they lean on more? Then they try to, I guess, quote unquote, get creative. And there were some weird play calls earlier in the game. The Wildcat, I hate the Wildcat. Just get rid of the Wildcat. I don't understand. It barely works. I know there's been some success with it. Montrell Johnson had some success with it. It's just not. I'm not a big fan of it. But there was some try to get creative, try to get Trey Wilson some snaps, a trick play. That didn't work either. So even if it's like when there is some out of the box thinking, when there is some creativity, quote unquote creativity, if you want to call it that, it doesn't work in Florida's favor. This offense just isn't there. And look, I know I'm part of the blame for it for myself. Maybe talent really only does take you so far if the offense is this limited. Because I'm still a believer in his talent. Now, can Lagway get back to a point where he'd be the quarterback I thought he could be? He's got to get there. But I guess since he's not at that level, pair it with the limitations of this offense, and maybe this is the result we're getting. I don't think we should get it against USF. Now, if you go to Baton Rouge and lose next week, okay. That's where I expected to see it. Like, if I wasn't getting my answer for Billy Napier being a better play caller because he's got his guy, he's got his quarterback, got so much returning talent, I didn't expect to get that answer versus USF. I expected to get that answer if it wasn't really going to work the way I want it to against LSU on the road in Baton Rouge at night. Not here in the swamp, losing 18-16. Oh no, King Los! I threw my Gator flag in the trash. I'm done with this team. Got to be a fan thick and thin, man. Makes the good days feel better. Can we get there again? I mean, that's why this is so disappointing. We were pointing to this year to be somewhat back in the conversation. And 2 weeks in, we can rightfully throw it away. Now, there's 10 games left to play, and we're going to certainly sit there and follow it. Most of us will still sit and watch it. But the feeling that this team can actually go do something while watching those games has already subsided. Once again, 4 seasons in a row, you start the season 1-1. This was supposed to be the one you started 2-0. Well, maybe I should ask myself that question too. You guys let me know. Too high on the talent. Too high on the talent. Is that possible? I think it can be. Now, you guys know, yes, stars matter. Stars absolutely matter. I've always been that guy, and I'll stand by it. Mean as much as they used to in today's college football? Maybe not. I think you still need them. We see who's winning titles. We still see who's in the playoff. But I thought this could be where experience, once again, made up for something. There is enough talent not to be losing to USF right here in the swamp. There is enough talent, I think, to be competing. I do think it's shrunk between in the country. The top to where Florida is. I think I'm still comfortable saying that it's pretty wide open this year. I expected Florida and Florida's talent to be in that wide open conversation. Maybe I misdiagnosed the talent. Maybe it's not there. Maybe we rely too much on experience. Talent comes first. Neo says it's like they're stuck in quicksand or in second gear in sand. Yeah. Joshua Miles, you do bring up a good point. And unfortunately, this is not where I thought we would be with Lagway, but you say, calls 3-yard swing passes a lot, so of course Lagway completes 80% of his passes. That's what we were saying with the last quarterbacks. That's what we were saying with Graham Mertz. Yeah, it made Florida's offense better than it had been in some ways. I thought the offense was good in some ways over Mertz, but it was supposed to take that next step because you could go down the field. Well, Florida's not being able to go down the field. So we're seeing the same offense since before DJ Lagway, but now with DJ Lagway. It's the same offense. He's not the weapon I thought he could be running the ball. And through these first 2 games so far this year, he's Graham Mertz. So yeah, the completion percentage is going to be high. But where's the threat? There's no threat. So Florida's going to, and here's the thing, I still think he's got that in him, that deep ball. But Florida's going to have to find some way to scheme that stuff better. Now, Billy Napier's offense, very predictable, and that's been one avenue of that offense that we absolutely can't stand. But maybe that's where it's at right now. It's just so predictable that, all right, there's enough tape on Lagway and what he did so well last year. We're taking that away. So what is your rebuttal? What is your reply to that if you're Billy Napier and this staff? What can you come up with to get that back in the offense? I thought it would be leaning on the run game a bit more, letting the run game take over. You have to start creeping up a little bit, but we can't even get there. Can't even get there. Great first drive running the ball. You got to set up for a field goal anyway, and then you don't. I'll have to do the average rush after the first drive of the game. But I thought that would be something you'd be able to rely on. To look, we know if you're a defense, all right, we know Lagway likes that deep ball, so we're going to sit back there. We're not going to let him do that. All right, that's where we talked about it all preseason. That's something I thought I would like about this offense. But okay, well, if they're going to do that, this run game will take over. Because I can look now and go by half. Florida averaged 3 yards a carry in the second half. 16 attempts for 3 yards a carry. In the first half, 5.7. And that was with Ball getting 10 yards a carry on that first drive of the game. 3 yards in the second half running the ball for the Gators against USF. They averaged 2.2. Like I said, if you would have given me their rushing numbers, I would have said Florida wins this game. I didn't expect them to throw for 188 yards in a half, and it was the second half. When they needed the yards, they were able to get them through the air. They threw for 75 yards in the first half. 188 in the second half. This defense doesn't get a pass either. But, well, I'd say, USF scored 13. I think that's what I had them at. So they only scored 5 more than that. So I'm saying defense doesn't get a pass, but you giving me their stats, I would have taken them. And I'd say Florida wins the game. Yeah, Florida wins this game 38-18. I'm fine with that. But now you score 16 points, 1 touchdown, and that was kind of gifted to you with a great punt return and a penalty. JV Dance says, run 50 yards side to side before the ball's even snapped. Bring in elite receivers. Don't even have a vertical pass plan. Go into the tight ends when they're not your elite recruits even. There's a lot of reliance on the tight ends right now in the passing game. I can't figure it out either. Ryan Stradula brings up a point I know we noticed it last week, especially with the touchdown passes. Lagway's throwing the touchdown passes. 2 of them last week were from the empty sets. DJ wants to spread the field. These tight sets make him uncomfortable. He knew this was what he was signing up for. Apparently, he really likes Billy Napier's offense. Q Lee, probably can say this right now. Just hope we get out of this. DJ just not a complete quarterback. He plays hero ball. It's what it looks like in some ways. I guess, does he feel the need he has to do that? And if he does, why? Get to that. And look, a lot of this is assumptions and assuming. I completely understand. I know that too. We're all hurting right now. We're all disappointed right now, looking for answers. Right of the line, spitting penalties are a tradition at UF. Brendan Bett was channeling his inner Jamari Lyons. Yeah, that happened a couple of years ago when Florida State was here in the swamp. Jamari Lyons with another notable spitting penalty back in the day. Animal says, keep one thing in mind. You fire Billy, you very well lose Lagway as well. Yeah, maybe so. I want to see the Lagway I expected. Lance B, thank you so much for the donation here. Gino White says, I have issues with the offensive lineman substituting. Yeah, I think one of the penalties after a big play, if I remember right off the top of my head, was off of Roger Kearney. So a guard Florida very high on. But of course, maybe not be able to get into a groove and out there. I mean, look, Florida had 11 penalties. So, I mean, singling out Rod Kearney, but does that lend itself? With all the substituting going on up there, they like to rotate the bodies. Hey, wrote a story on it this week on gatorsbreakdown.com. Napier saying, hey, playing in Florida in this heat, and we're trying to develop offensive linemen as well. Last week it made sense. Look who you were playing, and it was something we brought up early last year against Miami and Texas A&M was the rotation up front along the offensive line. Why not play your five best and roll with your five best as much as you can? Did that stunt their growth and development, at the beginning of last year? Maybe paid off down the road because you had some guys playing snaps. I think that's the hope right now as well, but you got to win a ball game first. And I know, the transfer portal comes into it as well. Guys aren't getting playing time. Freddie might hit the portal, so you give him playing time too, but that can't count like the cost of losing a game. The one you shouldn't lose. And what point do we get to, we ask ourselves the question too, should Florida have lost this game? We got to let the season play out before we can answer that. But after last week and USF beating Boise State, that pinged the radar. All right, that might be a tougher game for Florida. I would admit it was going to be a little tougher than I thought it would be. Not a game Florida should lose. Are we going to get to a point at this where Florida's what? All right, lose your next two. Florida's 2-2 in the next couple of weeks. Texas coming to town. We'll see what USF does against Miami next week, but I think Miami controls them. But are we going down the road? All right, maybe Florida shouldn't have won this game. Maybe the team we see in 5 weeks is the same team we saw out here tonight. Maybe the team we see next week is the same team we saw out here, and they're going to get destroyed by LSU. Maybe this game will make a lot more sense next week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks down the road. Who knows? I see the coaching hot board stuff. I can't go there now, guys. I can't go there this soon. I can't do it. I'm hurting right now. I can't, man, I can't be going to coaching hot boards again. I mean, we just did it a year ago. I'll get there if we have to. I was a little slow on it last year too. And I was feeling even worse. After Miami, after A&M, I was admitting, yeah, it should have happened. Fire Billy Napier, and they turned the season around. But man, I don't want to go there yet, and it's not because I'm holding out some kind of hope for this team. It's just, man, I just don't want to be in that headspace again. If it comes to it, I will certainly get there, but I can't have the constant week after week of, can we get this coach? I want that coach. It's lane train season. It's whoever, maybe John Gruden season, Jimbo Fisher season. I saw that. Yeah, here we go. This is about as much time as I'm going to spend on that. I can't get in that headspace yet. There's 10 games left. We went through it just a year ago. Give me some more time. You guys can do it all you want. You're more than welcome to. I can't get in that headspace yet. I want to see this team play football. I want to see this team hopefully do better. I don't have the confidence they'll get there, and I might be getting more frustrated week by week. Who knows how soon I'll get. If Florida goes out there and gets blasted by LSU and Miami in the next couple of weeks, that might be when I start hopping on board. And boy, that's gonna be ugly. You got those 2 games coming up. You got a bye week after that with Texas coming in. For any good feelings, a month from now in your next home game, you've got to find a way to win one of these next 2. And I can't believe I'm talking like that. Sitting here saying you got to find a way. Because you just lost 18-16 to USF. And here I am now just saying you got to find a way to beat LSU or Miami to fight, maybe save some semblance of a season. Now, I wouldn't have been satisfied if if Florida's 2-0 right now, and then you lose those 2 games. And then we're going to the Texas game with kind of the same feeling. You got to find a way. But now we're going into those 2 games. The games we didn't think we'd be saying you got to win those 2. Because a lot of people giving Florida a little bit of cushion with going to Baton Rouge next week. And, okay, that might be a game you can afford to lose and still possibly go to Atlanta, possibly make a college football playoff. Now you have this in your back pocket. You got this loss in your pocket. And I know I'll bring it up one more time. I know people will bring up Notre Dame and NIU, and they still got in and to the playoff. It's a little different circumstance for them. But Florida's schedule's tough. We know that coming up. You find a way to rally the troops somehow, some way, great. Here we are asking ourselves to find a way to save a season. 2 games in again with 2 tough road games coming up. 3 top 10 teams coming up. It's a heavy ask. It's a heavy ask to ask any fan to be confident that that can happen. Jordan comes in, ball got hit and slowed down. It's not like he ran over anything in the second half. Yep, certainly. Oh, Johan, orange and boohoo. That's clever. That's clever. Orange and boohoo. Let me print those on shirts, maybe. Barone, going back to a point we made earlier, I'm not as worried about portal exits when Napier's fired. NIL can retain many players with the right head coach hired. Also, that head coach should have some guys to bring in, too. Yeah, that's true. I'm just saying the same people you're asking to pay for a buyout are a lot of the same people you're asking to pay NIL. But here's the thing. Decision's not going to be made unless those guys are on board. That's another thing. If they want to pay Napier's buyout, then there's going to have to be a plan in place. All right, you want to do that? Well, you also got to take us to the next step because this roster may get turned over. So we're going to need the money to bring the new players in as well. Here I am talking about the coaching stuff again. But going back to that, and then people will talk about, should Napier be here or not. I won't talk certain people so much. I won't have the hot board ready right now, but I will talk the situation if it comes to that. There's a lot of ways monetarily of looking at it. But if it happens, to me, that's the plan that's got to be in place. You're going to a lot of the same wallets. So if you're telling them you're ready to make a move, if they're telling you they're ready to make a move, then you got to be able to also express you're ready for the next step. Can't just fire to fire and not have a plan in place to make it better. Can't fire just to make everybody happy and then say, well, we don't have any money left now. A lot of programs are in a weird situation right now. I think if you're going to take the sport serious, then whoever in UOA, imported boosters, ask yourselves the question, do you want to win in football? Do you want to win in football? And a lot of people, look, mentioned it earlier, but a lot of you believe that Florida's just fine with filling the stadium up and not winning ball games. That might be the case. We might just be in this vicious cycle of we, the fans, care and want more than the people who actually make the decisions. Florida might be in that situation right now, and that would be sad for us. We're not going to get a complete. We can guess, and there might be some educated guesses, and there might be some right guesses in that situation. But just not firing signal you're not serious enough about winning. Okay, I can see that. Just not spending the money to do all that send the message that you're not ready to win big. I can see that too. College football's in a weird spot right now. We saw it last year, and that's one reason Billy Napier got hung on to and just miraculously turned it around. A situation can happen again. It's not unique to Florida. But if this gets into a bad enough situation where the noise is loud and it's unacceptable, this was unacceptable tonight. But I'm talking about overall record. We got to wait till we get down the road there and we find that that's unacceptable. Who is that unacceptable for? And who's going to be making that decision? And why are they going to be making the decision? Okay, let's see. Some more comments. Thanks, everybody, sending them in. Sean Smith, thanks for the donation. He says, I've been a Napier defender for too long. He has proven that he can't handle in-game adversity. A good coach finds a way to get his guys in position to win despite not being at their best. He can't. Too talented for this. I agree. I agree. I still think the talent's there to be better than this. To be competing. To be in the conversation in November. Maybe Florida still finds themselves there. I don't think so. Because of what we saw on the field tonight. It's something we see and have seen way too much of. I mean, you can ask Will Miles, and like I said, I've hopped on board. I've had private conversations with, I've had conversations with you guys. I was done last year, and they figured it out, and I hopped on board. But the reasons I was done at one time, you can call it bandwagon if you want to. You can call it me riding the fence. That's fine. Like I said, it's part of being a fan for me. But part of the reason I would get in that headspace of this is not going to work out is what we saw tonight. It's what we saw tonight. And I was hoping we'd be getting out of it somehow, some way, because of this roster. Maybe I over-evaluated the roster as well. Maybe we all, but we're not the only ones. We're not the only ones. Us fans, us Gator fans are not the only ones. Good friend Josh Pate picking Florida to go to the playoff. A lot of people maybe not picking Florida to be in the playoff, but be in the conversation. That was a national level discussion. Not just here in Gainesville, not just here on Gators Breakdown, but on ESPN, but on Fox Sports, national podcast, all that stuff. It wasn't just a made-up Gator thing. Now, we can sit here and say, all right, well, it wasn't warranted after what we saw tonight, but it wasn't just Florida fans. We wasn't just tooting our own horn and everybody else jumped on board with it. Some of it happened the other way. It happened at the national level, and then some in the Orange and Blue family, some in Gator Nation jumped on that. It wasn't the other way around. Sean Smith says, and yet I still feel like our team is talented enough to win next week, and it would not surprise me. I have faith Lagway will get better. I do think they're talented enough to win next week. I guess I'll still hang on that for now. And I guess that's probably the most frustrating part of it. I have faith Lagway will get better. Oh, man. Maybe it's because of the Hague. Maybe my fate's waning there. Maybe he reached his ceiling under this staff. I still think DJ Lagway can be special. Maybe he's not in the right spot. And I hate to say that. I want to see him in that orange and blue jersey. I want to see that number 2 on the sideline here. But is he being put in the best situation? Chris Potter, great question. Which part of the Napier tenure has been acceptable? You can tell by the long pause. If you're watching that, yeah, none of it's really been acceptable. I think we can fully admit, and like I said, thankfully he turned it around, but the only reason he stayed last year, was because of the climate of college football. That was I still believe that was the only reason. And then I was just like, hey, maybe he figured it out at the same time. Maybe he caught a break and then figured it out. Had this team behind him, had this team winning games. But overall recruiting, I will admit, when Billy Napier was hired, I still thought recruiting. I liked their roster, and I like a lot of the pieces of recruiting. I thought recruiting would be better. I did think eventually. Now, who knows with NIL and who wants to throw money here and there and everywhere. I still thought you'd be comfortably in the top 10 most years. Not really until this past recruiting cycle. I thought Florida would be more of a factor. But I'm not putting that on what we saw out there on the field tonight. I'm not putting that on if, we don't, this team doesn't live up to the expectation I put on them. I don't think they're going to already. But the reason I think we've lost so much faith is because of the head coach, not the talent. So when I talk about recruiting, yeah, it's not overall at the level I think it should be. But there's a lot of good pieces I like. But I thought it was just timing out together this year with the experience. And I thought some of the young talent, throw Lagway in that, the receiver talent that they recruited, what we've been seeing with Jaden Ball, pair all that to 4 or 5 offensive linemen. Okay, I thought that was going to be a turn pager for the offense. I thought it was going to let them take that next step. Maybe that's going to be maybe that's a question that we'll start asking ourselves more about this team. Did we overvalue the talent? Did we overvalue the talent? That's scary to me. For as much as I was bought in on that part of it, if we have to start asking that question. Woo, so many comments. I got to get on the road soon and get back to Jacksonville. So I cannot. We'd be here hours if I had to answer all these comments. Joshua Fennell. Hopefully I said that, Joshua. We can't use the excuse it's a talent issue anymore. It's all on Billy and the staff. They're horrible, and it's time to go. And last thing I'll say about the talent, I still think that whether they reach the playoff, reach my expectation or whatever, okay. They're still better than what we saw tonight. And they're still, because of that, because of where I think the talent is, that's, to me, I'll go back to it one more time, that's why it's so disappointing. I think this team had the pieces. And I hate saying past tense had, but after that performance tonight, I don't know how I get out of that mode now. It's so disappointing. Man, it's always hard to do these episodes, knowing where to go with the conversation. Just because there's so many ways to go with it. How much time do you spend on the actual game? I know most of it's big picture now. And, I mean, it's... Sean Smith, were the 4 wins last year flukes in retrospect now? Napier might need to start selling used cars. Spot the ball. DJ is fine. No worries. I don't think they were flukes. No, I don't. It's worth asking. I think you can certainly ask it. I guess maybe the answer is I hope they weren't. I can't sit here and say they. I guess now, I don't know. Maybe I can't sit here and answer that question honestly. I mean, it's probably gonna be opinion either way. I don't know. I don't think they were flukes. Could they be? Sure. But LSU, I mean, yeah, it was a good win last year. but that was a team that probably could have, should have, would have lost to South Carolina last year. So that should have been one more loss on the resume for them. But they had the big win over Ole Miss, so for them, and then Florida got it as well. I thought did the defense play out of their minds much better than they had been? Sure. And was that the fluky part? Maybe. The offense didn't light it up on fire, but it was a very opportunistic offense and a very controlling defense. We don't need to harp on last year, but that part of it, that 4 wins, was part of the reason we were so excited for this year. Now, you go to LSU and Ole Miss, okay. A lot of people say, hey, maybe the warning signs were there for FSU and the offense not doing what we thought it would. Maybe the warning signs for DJ and the offense were, he didn't play great against Tulane. He still threw for 300 yards and all that. So it was an up and down day for DJ, put it that way. But we knew what he was struggling with. All right, so that'd get better in year 2 when he gets the experience. Well, he didn't get to take control of the development because of everything and all the time that he was missing. Okay. So, but it was those 4 games that lended itself of why we felt so good. And if they were flukes, maybe we got high up on our horses for this team for no reason. Because those 4 games went a long way in how we were feeling about the potential of this team. All right, guys. Dang, Vandy's beating Vodtech 44-20. Okay. Whew. Why does everybody say you can't beat? Is something happening in the Bama game? At least you're not Bama? I see that. Were they struggling or something? Arizona State, Mississippi State 17-17. Okay. Bama 59-0. Okay, yeah. Well, they did lose to FSU last week, who, maybe FSU's better. It's still early in the season. We'll find out a lot more answers about these teams. It's been one tough opponent and one cupcake for most teams out there, so still a lot more to learn. But what we learned from Florida tonight is not ready for the national stage. You don't lose 18-16 to USF and be ready for the national stage. I'm going to stand by it. I don't think Florida comes out of this. I don't think Florida turns it around. I don't think Florida finds answers and becomes that fringe playoff team that we thought they could be. So everybody wants predictions. Everybody wants hot takes, of course, and I don't really live in that world a whole lot. But if I was asked to make a prediction of how this team was going to go on from here, it's not where we thought it would be. I've already said I won't be picking Florida any of the next 2 weeks. Can a win in Baton Rouge next week change my mind and hop us back on board in some ways? Sure, I guess it can. There's still 10 more games to play. But if I had to make a prediction, this loss right here wasn't in the 10-2 and 9-3 a lot of Gator fans were picking. This wasn't one of them. So you got to add this one. So all right, now where do you make up for this one at? If you still think there's a chance, where does this team make up for it? Is it at LSU? Is it at Miami when Texas comes to town? LSU, Ole Miss, Georgia. We can go down the list. We know how hard it is. But this one wasn't in the equation. Where do you make up for this one at? How much does it hurt you down the road? Okay, the schedule's hard enough. If you find a way to rebound, all right, this one ain't going to hurt you so much. I'm just not confident in that rebound. All right, everybody, that'll do it for this episode of Gators Breakdown. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC. We'll be on the Gators Breakdown Plus chat Sunday evening. Become a member, hop on the Discord. You can chat with us. But guys and girls out there, thank you for, however you watched, enjoyed, ingested this content. Well, However, I know we're all disappointed, but thank you for tuning in anyway.